views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hi, and welcome to Open BXRX Tuesday on BronxNet, a weekly program providing you the latest information, resources, services, and community efforts taking place locally here in the Bronx and virtually. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, and today is Tuesday, September 14th. Coming up, following a special New York legislature session led by Governor Kathy Hochul, the statewide eviction moratorium has been extended until January 2022. We'll discuss this and more with NAICA. Then, in observance of Constitution Day on September 17th, and with an upcoming general election taking place November 2nd, we'll discuss voter awareness and the importance of civic engagement with the League of Women Voters NYC. After that, join us for a discussion about Latinidad and anti-Blackness in our cultures during Hispanic Heritage Month with historian and producer Katelina Gata of Reggaeton con la Gata. And learn how the Bronx's blooming engages communities and youth in our borough with environmental advocacy and community building programs. So please stick around. Open BXRX Tuesday starts now. Welcome to Open BXRX Tuesday on BronxNet. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, and I'd like to invite you to get social with us at BronxNet TV on Instagram and Twitter, and BronxNet Community Television on Facebook. In a rare move, Governor Kathy Hochul held an emergency session that led to the extension of the eviction moratorium to January 2022. This is a sense of relief for more than 800,000 households statewide who are behind on rent, most of them low-income people and people of color scrambling to get access to rent relief through the ERAP Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Joining us now to discuss these updates from Hochul's session, your rights as a tenant, landlord, and more is Marlen Valarezo, Executive Director of Legal Services at Neighborhood Association for Intercultural Affairs, NAICA. Welcome, Marlen. Thank you so much again for joining us again to talk about this important eviction moratorium extension.
Thank you for having me.
Claro. So without further ado, please share the latest eviction moratorium updates following Governor Hochul's special session. What took place? What should we know?
So as you stated, she did call for an emergency session on September 1st because there are over 200,000 eviction cases pending, with at least 14,000 of those with eviction orders that were approved prior to the pandemic. So those tenants were very vulnerable. And as our governor was stating, she didn't want to allow residents of our state to face eviction, especially because, as we all know, there was a slow rollout for ERAP. In the beginning, there were a lot of issues which caused delays. So she did ask lawmakers to pass the new law extending the eviction moratorium to January 15th, 2022 for both commercial and residential evictions in New York State for those who were financially affected by COVID. And New York's lawmakers did pass this extension, and which will leave the moratorium extended till January 15th, 2022. And it extends the protections of the Safe Harbor Act, as well as enacts foreclosure protections for small landlords and homeowners as well.
Thank you for the update, Marlen. This is great news for renters and for tenants as well altogether. So something I wanted to mention is that state leaders also mentioned expanding the safety net for those that qualify for rental and landlord support. What will this look like, Marlen? Can you share?
So there was an additional $250 million that was also approved. And this basically was added to the already in existence ERAP program, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And 125 million of it is now earmarked to fund a hardship program. And that will be for those earning between 80 AMI and 120 AMI. So for example, someone in 120 AMI, a family of one, could earn up to $100,000. And I know that seems like, well, why would they need help? But they noticed that a lot of people who were applying for ERAP were above the 80 AMI, but had financial hardship. So they had to make that special allocation of money because the federal money would not allow for anyone above 80 AMI to receive assistance. So now this extra earmarked money will apply for those people. There was also an additional 125 million that was given now to assist landlords. And that's for those landlords that have uncooperative tenants who don't want to apply for ERAP, or with tenants that vacated owing arrears. They also added 25 million, which was to provide legal services in areas where access to free legal services has not been available in the past. Even though in New York we have right to counsel, a lot of the other portions of the state do not.
Got it. Thank you for that, Marlen. So, a big question is, should we be worried about facing this eviction moratorium debacle again come January 2022, once it's expired again, or even before the eviction moratorium is set to expire? What is the plan? Should we be worried about that happening again with the Supreme Court?
I mean, we're hoping now because there was, I know that there was an issue with the hardship declaration in the past where they struck it down because it violated due process rights. But they did manage to create a new system where you still submit a hardship declaration and you submit it stating this is my hardship reasons, but the landlord now has the opportunity to request a hearing, which makes it basically legal for everyone because now the landlord can oppose the hardship declaration, and at that point in a hearing they can discuss what the actual hardship is, and that gives due process. So the hardship declaration should be upheld going forward. Also, we don't know what will happen in January 2022, but we can only be hopeful that the New York State lawmakers will be prepared for an extension if needed in the future. But right now, our plan, as well as all the other providers, is to assist as many tenants as possible with applying for ERAP. So that means that any tenant, like I said, any tenant up to 120% AMI, so up to earning 100,000 can apply, and we're going to try and reach out to as many as possible. And right now what we're doing, as well as all the other agencies, is reaching out via mail and even calling tenants that owe rent but who have yet to apply for the program. So we're going to try and make sure that we get to as many people as possible so we can lower the amount of people that are facing eviction in the future.
Got it. So just to be clear, the New York State Hardship Declaration form is now in legal effect. That was what the Supreme Court ruled before, was that it had no legal effect at all. So they kind of just canceled it.
Right. So what they did now is they updated it to include a due process clause. So that way, if the landlord feels that the tenant submitted a hardship declaration and there really wasn't a hardship, they can request a hearing, at which point the court will have the two parties there and basically ask the tenant to prove the hardship, which was not available before. They said that it was just the tenant stating I have a hardship and everyone believed them without a hearing. Now there will be a hearing if the landlord believes there was no hardship.
Got it. Good to know. Thank you, Marlen. So you are a lawyer. Let's talk about the law. The law says that once a tenant files the application for rent relief, it is supposed to freeze any eviction proceedings. Can tenants still be evicted for non-payment or any other reason at this time?
Well, yes. Remember, the eviction is stayed pending a decision. So we've told people if you're found ineligible for ERAP, like they're not approved, they may face eviction. So I'm still telling them submit a hardship declaration as well, because you should have both stays in effect. So, I mean, I would submit the hardship declaration to the court as well as applying for the ERAP. And also, if you get a denial for ERAP, there will be information on the notice how to do an appeal. So I encourage everyone, if you get denied, still appeal the decision. But that is an issue. If you do not do the hardship declaration and you're denied ERAP, you could face eviction.
Got it. So thousands of tenants have applied for the ERAP program so far, but not all have been approved. Maybe only 7% of total ERAP funds have been distributed so far as of the extension of the eviction. What are some of the challenges with the ERAP program application process? I know NAICA is helping tenants apply for this now.
So I think with any program, it was new. It started very quickly because it was an emergency response. They put the program into place within like a few months. And I think that caused a lot of delays because there was shortage of staffing. There was shortage of training. Even our agencies received training literally the day before it went live. There was shortage of training of the OTDA staff, as well as there was technical issues. But I will say that as of August 31st, over 300 million in rent assistance has been distributed to over 23,000 landlords. And Governor Hochul also increased staffing who are reviewing the applications and increased staff on the OTDA hotline, which is probably why, if you notice, in most of the approvals have been made within the last like 2-3 weeks. So that is what caused a lot of these applications all of a sudden to now be approved, where they have been pending for 8 to 10 weeks, some of them. So we're hopeful now that a lot of these staffing issues have been corrected, as well as the technical issues, which did plague the portal in the beginning. They're little by little, they've been improving them daily. So what we do is we report back daily to OTDA, the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, and let them know if there's an issue with the portal. And they respond to us as quickly as they can, and then they correct those glitches, as well as We meet weekly, all the providers with HRA. As a matter of fact, we usually meet Tuesdays at 2, and we discuss any issues that are occurring with OTDA, with the portal, and how we can correct it. And we get responses from HRA and OTDA to try and correct this. So we're hoping, because we've seen now all of a sudden the rise in approvals, that it will continue to get better.
Got it. Thank you, Marlen. Something that was discussed offline between you and I was at the legislature special session. Someone mentioned something about people being lazy to apply for the ERAP program. That is not the case. As Marlen just indicated, there have been troubleshooting issues. There have been application issues, lack of staff to help with this program. And as we know, many of our community members don't speak English. So, having access to, or they don't have access to technology. On top of that, we have a digital divide in our community. So we know that these issues are way bigger than what they were made to seem, and hopefully these funds are helping redirect that and helping people apply for the program.
Yes, and also we also have people who are doing duplicate applications in the beginning because they would start an application and they couldn't resume it. So example, you started an application and you had to leave because the school called or something happened with your child and you had to run, and then all of a sudden they lost that application. They would start a new application a few days later. So it's caused a delay with OTDA because now they're trying to merge all those multiple applications that were created in the beginning. So a lot of this was, like I said, due to shortages in staffing and also with the technical issues, which as of late have been getting corrected. So we're just trying to say, please, people, reach out to us. We are assisting. What we will do is, if you cannot, you're not tech savvy and you can't email or fax us, we will make appointments for you at NAICA, and you can come in and drop off in person the applications. Of course, we're going to be very, we want to make sure that there's safety protocols, so we won't have multiple clients at the same time. It'll be usually every 20 minutes. So that way we maintain the safety of both the public as well as our staff. And they can come in and drop it off in person, and then we will do the application over the phone. So they don't even have to leave the comfort of their home, as long as they have a phone available. And if they don't, that's when we will make an appointment. But as long as they have a phone number, we can call you and we can do the application while we have you on the phone. And then you can come in with an appointment and drop off the document. So we're trying to make it as easy and seamless as possible so everyone can do this application.
Marlen, let's get that information out there for our viewers now. For anyone tuning in who needs assistance with the ERAP application, how can they get in touch with NAICA at this time?
They can call our ERAP hotline at NAICA at 718-866-0038, or they can email us at NAICAERAP@NAICANY.org. And also, we are, like you said, legal providers. I am an attorney, so we do have attorneys on staff. If you need some information and you're a tenant and it's regarding a housing-related question, please call 718-538-4830, and you can speak to one of our attorneys who will provide information.
Before we go, just about the importance of applying for this rental assistance, and for people tuning in who may be a little shy, I guess, to reach out or not sure if they qualify for it, what is your message to the community?
I'd rather they call us or email us and ask the question than stay without the knowledge. So please, I've always say information is power. So if you call us, we will give you the information. Like I said, this new AMI, this was something that wasn't in effect as of Monday of last week. So now if you're earning up to 100,000, you can apply for ERAP. So please, I beseech you, I ask you, call us, get the information from us. I've had people who've emailed us who maybe don't want to call, because I know sometimes I'm kind of funny on the phone too. Like, I don't want to call people and wait, but email. We've had people email us and just say, do I qualify for ERAP? And I'll say, well, what is your, and I'll email them back, like, what is your income? And now that we have, like I said, increased the income, it helps expand the group of people we can reach out to.
Right. Thank you again, Marlen, for your time today. And please reach out to NAICA at NAICAERAP@NAICANY.org. Call them at 718-866-0038 to find out more about the ERAP program that they're helping people apply for. Thank you, Marlen.
We do speak Spanish as well. I just want to let people know we have most of our staff are bilingual. So I just want to let you know. And we have language lines if they don't speak that either of those, English or Spanish. Okay.
They habla español and they speak other languages as well. So be sure to contact them. We'll be right back here on Open BXRX Tuesday. Stay tuned.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption
of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
Reporting from BronxNet, this is Trans. Welcome back. Constitution Day is an American federal observance that recognizes the adoption of the United States Constitution. It takes place on September 17th. The right to vote is, of course, part of our constitutional rights as citizens of the United States, and in observance of both Constitution Day and an upcoming general election taking place on November 2nd, the League of Women Voters NYC are raising voter awareness. Patricia Manning, board director at LWVNYC, joins us to share more. Welcome, Pat. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting us on.
Of course. Always happy to have the League on BronxNet. So we are celebrating Constitution Day on September 17th this week. Please tell us about the importance of celebrating this day and how the League is raising awareness.
Certainly. On this day in 1787, the United States Constitution became our country's official law of the land. The Constitution, it explains our nation's guiding principles, describes the rights guaranteed to all U.S. citizens, and is the foundation for our laws and what the Supreme Court uses as its base for their decisions. It's called a living document because it can be changed through amendments voted on by our elected representatives. The League of Women Voters of New York City encourages everyone to read this important document. The first three words, we, the people, affirms that our government is founded upon our input and opinions, and our vote matters. On Constitution Day, September 17th, the League of Women Voters will be handing out thousands of copies of the U.S. Constitution. I have it right here, along with information on the ballot propositions and other important information. And of course, we will have voter registration forms available. The material will also offer links on our website to read the Constitution in various languages. We will have volunteers on the streets and surrounding neighborhoods of 6 libraries that are hosting the League as base station. And that will be in 6 assembly districts that have low voter turnout. And it will be in Brooklyn in Assembly District 54 at Washington Irving's Library, in the Bronx at Assembly District 78 at the Bronx Library Center, and in the Bronx Assembly District 86 at the Tremont Library. Also in Manhattan, Assembly District 68 at the Aguilar Library, Queens, Assembly District 35, Queens Langston Hughes Library, and Queens Assembly District 39 at the Jackson Heights Library. We also want to highlight that this year in New York State, voters will get a chance to vote on 2 proposed amendments to the New York State Constitution that have to do with voting in New York State.
Thank you for that, Pat. Yes, it's wonderful to bring that up. We do have two ballot proposals that we have to turn our ballots to see. So make sure that we read those questions and vote on those as well. And also catch the league at the different locations that Pat just mentioned. They'll be handing out those constitutions and talking about voting, which is very important this upcoming general election. So Pat, we the people, it's super important to highlight that. What are some ways that we the people can celebrate Constitution Day this week as voters?
Certainly. Some great ways to celebrate Constitution Day are, you can register to vote to make sure your voice will be heard. Tell 3 friends to register to vote. Apply to be a poll worker for the next election. Make your voting plan for November. We've got a lot to vote on. Apply to be a poll worker. We have a lot to vote on in November. It includes the mayor, the borough presidents, city council, and 5 ballot proposals. So it's a very important election coming about.
Absolutely. And speaking of registering to vote, we do have some citywide general election dates and deadlines to keep in mind. Can you help us walk through these important dates, Pat?
Very important dates. All of the deadlines can be found at the Board of Elections website, or you can visit the league's great resource that's called Vote 411. And believe me, you will find a lot of information there. The deadline to register to vote is October 8th. You can register to vote online if you have a driver's license. You can go to the DMV website. Otherwise, you need to send in a paper application, which you can download from Vote 411 or get from the Board of Elections. If you are changing your address, you have a few more days, but you will need to fill out the same form and get it to the Board of Elections by October 13th. If you want to vote by absentee ballot this year, you need to send in the application to the Board of Elections by October 18th. Or if you apply for an absentee ballot in person, you'll have to get it. You have until November 1st. Lots of dates, you can find them all, like I said, if Vote 411. Early voting starts October 23rd and it ends October 31st. November 2nd is the last day to postmark ballot or deliver in person to a poll site or to BOE, Board of Elections.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pat, for that information and all those dates. Again, you can visit vote411.org to see that full list of dates. And you can also follow the league online to stay in touch with those dates as well. So, Pat, I wanted to talk about low voter turnout in our communities here in the Bronx in particular. What are some of the causes of this trend and how can we work towards being more civically engaged?
Yeah, the League of Women Voters is always working for rights of New Yorkers to be able to vote. One of the biggest challenges we heard was a difficulty in taking the time to vote on Election Day. So we lobby hard for early voting, and now New Yorkers have a lot more days to vote. And we fought for and we got longer hours at the polling stations. We hear people say that they don't feel their vote counts. We hope to inform them that whatever issue is important to them in their neighborhood, their vote will send a message to their local representatives. We need to keep working hard to raise the awareness of the power of our vote. It is your vote that will select a representative who stands for what you want. You can become more civically engaged by joining organizations that advocates for issues you care about. Reach out to your city council member. Let them know your concerns. Attend local community board meetings, and those are very good meetings to be in attendance at because you learn not just about your community, but you learn things about other citywide, basically. So, and you can also join the police department citizens police committee, just attend these public hearings. Those are very good for, keeping up with citywide issues.
Absolutely. It's very important to be engaged and have a seat at the table, especially if you're coming from this community and you're concerned about certain things happening, including, potholes, or if you see mess in your corner, a lot of littering. Those are things that should be brought up at these meetings and brought up to our representatives. And this is why we vote. This is why it's done democratically. So thank you for bringing that up, Pat. So for decades, the League has also fought to protect every American's right to vote against voter suppression. Can you share what voter suppression may look like in our communities today and how the League continues to fight against it?
Oh, yes. The League is in courthouses across the country fighting against voter suppression. Because voting laws are created by each individual state, there are 50 sets of laws. But the U.S. Constitution has amendments to tell each state that they cannot discriminate on the basis of race, color, sex, gender, or voters now 18 years and older. If a voting law makes it harder for a citizen to vote, that could be considered voter suppression and would be in violation of the U.S. Constitution. For example, requiring a voter ID that is really hard to obtain or expensive is a form of suppression. Eliminating voter locations in areas where transportation is a problem, thereby making it harder for people to get to the polls is voter suppression. Or not providing adequate hours or staffing is suppression. And the League is always monitoring that in New York City, for sure. If you would like to apply to be a poll worker, and for the young people, you only need to be at least 17 years old. And these actions would be a tremendous help to your fellow citizens, especially if you speak multiple languages. There's always a need for translators. And you should note, please note that the League of Women Voters supports the For the People Act that would expand voting rights by enacting automatic voter registration for all Americans, expand early and mail-in voting, and same-day and online registration. It would make Election Day a federal holiday and increase voting access for disabled Americans and those stationed overseas. And the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act would restore and strengthen aspects of the Bipartisan Voting Rights Act of 1965, enabling Americans to protect themselves from discriminatory voting laws that target age, race, ethnicity, and other factors.
Pat, we would love to welcome you back to talk about these two acts, the For the People Act and the John Lewis Act, just so that we can inform our viewers on, on how to support these acts and also learn about these obstacles that voters face on the regular when trying to vote and use their constitutional right to vote, right? We're talking about Constitution Day still. So before we go, Pat, can you leave our viewers with a message about the importance of their vote and their voice this coming election, and also share how we can stay connected with the League?
Certainly. So elections can be won and lost by just a few votes. We know that. Know that your vote really does count, and you will its impact in this November 2nd election. Local elections matter as the issues affect the quality of our lives here in New York City. Fair housing, health justice, environmental justice, and infrastructure are just things that our elected officials can work on. Vote for the person who represents you and cares about your neighborhood. The League of Women Voters of New York City likes to say, vote louder, which you can do by making sure your friends and family are registered to vote and cast their vote.
Vote louder. I know it's September now, but down the line, it'll be November 2nd, and it'll be time for us all to head to those poll sites. So thank you, Pat, for your time today. Thank you to the League for all the work you're doing. We'll see you out here on Constitution Day.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We hope to get the word out even more. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. So you can stay in touch with the League by following them on social media at LWVNYC and also visiting their website at lwb.org. We'll be right back here on Open BXRX Tuesday. Stay tuned.
If you're struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311. That's 833-511-0311. Welcome back. What is Latinidad? Well, by definition, it's the various attributes shared by Latin American people and their descendants without reducing those similarities to any single essential trait. But for many who identify as Afro and or indigenous, Latino culture is not representative enough or inclusive of all. Joining us now to discuss Latinidad during Hispanic Heritage Month this month, starting on September 15th, is Katelina Eccleston, aka Gata, reggaeton historian and producer. Welcome, Gata. Thank you so much for joining us. Gata is also a BronxNet alum, so I just wanted to shout her out real quick.
Thank you for having me. Oh, you look beautiful. Thank you.
You too. Always vestida de rosado, looking gorgeous. Love it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to talk about this. You know, it's important to bring Afro-Latinidad and an interconnection in our community with, you know, Afro-Latinx, the Afro-Latinx community, especially during Hispanic Heritage Month and even beyond this. So thank you for making the time. So first to start, Gata, we want to learn a little bit about you. So tell us about your platform, Reggaeton con la Gata, and your mission as a creator and historian.
Again, thank you so much for having me. Katelina Eccleston, or you can call me Gata for short. I'm the creator of the bilingual platform Reggaeton con la Gata that used to air here in BronxNet. Essentially, my platform focuses on the intersections of race, sex, gender, class, and everything in between, along with reggaeton music, going from the history to the present, because we can't know where we're going if we don't know where we come from, right? Or at least that's what I say. So yeah, that's who I am and what I do. That's Reggaeton con la Gata.
Thank you for that. And so let's get right into it. The discussion on unpacking anti-Blackness and Latinidad. It's a discussion that must be had in our community. What does this mean, and why is it important to do this during this month?
Well, and it's a great question. Why? It's because, you know, sadly, because of the branding of Latinidad, there's just been a sort of erasure. This sort of idea that's continuously promoted that states that Black Latinos don't exist, which is simply couldn't be farther from the truth, right? Particularly during this month, you know, I do see a lot of initiatives to kind of change that narrative, but I don't think enough has been done, both by mainstream and, you know, underground. Of course, Gente Negra, we're doing all we can to give ourselves visibility and to, you know, help each other out. But essentially, Latinidad and its branding, you know, has a long history of erasing Black people, Indigenous people, and it's not only hurtful, it's violent. It has the potential to be very violent, because you can't humanize who you don't understand, and how can you humanize Black and Indigenous people if you don't know that they exist in these communities?
Exactly. Thank you for that, Gata. And when we're talking about, you know, erasure, we're talking about like growing up watching novelas where representation was lagging. Like we're talking about white Latinos only being shown in these novelas, and the fact that there's such an expanded amount of people, Afro-Latino people in our own communities and our own families. And, you know, that's something that you can share off of experience, Gata. You are Afro-Latina. You're representing your femme, like you're here, you have your platform about this. So can you share your own experiences with anti-Blackness? What has that looked like for an Afro-Latina femme as yourself?
Wow. What doesn't it look like? You know, I'm very grateful that my parents, who are Panamanian of Jamaican descent, have instilled in me, you know, it's not what's wrong with you, it's how the world looks at you. You know what I'm saying? Be able to make that distinction. There is nothing wrong with you, mija, right? Essentially, you know, my personal experience has been great, you know, with my family, my upbringing. But as I enter these spaces professionally, I have found doors closed on me, right? We don't talk about race. Todos somos una raza. We're all one race. what are you talking about? We're all happy here. You know, there's these different jingles and branding of Latinidad as happy, you know, sexy, but not too sexy people who, you know, all look a certain way and the other people just simply don't exist. That again, I would classify as violent. And so my experience in this space, you know, there's been ups and there's definitely have been downs. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And personally, like I had a coworker once, Afro-Latino, Dominican. He was speaking Spanish to an older woman at an old job, and she was like, "You're not Hispanic. You're too dark." You know, like these are the type of things that, you know, our community deals with constantly. And like, that's how it looks. So when we talk about mainstream media is one thing, but we talk about representation in our own community and acceptance in our own community. How can we do better to accept each other in Latinidad, Gata? If you can just give us a little 411 there.
You know, it's crazy because, you know, this conversation of Latinidad, who's included and who's not, really changes when you're comparing, you know, the experience in Latin America, lived experiences in Latin America versus the US. This is very much a US problem. Something that a lot of critics have been able to help me really rally into my brain, that when you go to Panama, no one's really asking the questions. No one's like, ¿hablas español? It's more so like, you're here, obviously you speak Spanish, you don't speak Spanish, you know? That's more so the norm. And with that said, steps that can be done, I mean, there just needs to be more education on los raíces, right? Because of this mestizaje of Latinidad and, you know, these continuous rhetorics of like all of us being one raza, and that some people even going as far as erasing history like esclavitud, slavery. Some people have gone that far. There are initiatives that really go there and erase history, right? This violent history that has generational impacts on the current generation. There needs to be a very long look in the mirror, an acceptance of, you know, what our raíces are, good and bad. And then and only then, because as simple as that sounds, it really needs to start there. Some people really aren't, they're so far away from that, you know, more than people really understand and are able to like jot down, like the fact that some people really can't really comprehend that. Once we get there, then we can do more, but it's really hard for us to get there. And that would be, I'd say, the first step, getting there, being able to accept our reality of lived experiences.
Absolutely. And you know, something important that you mentioned is the education of our folks. You know, a lot of folks grew up in an era where it's like, you know, the erasure was normal, and like learning this history of erasure was normal for them. And it's something that we learn, you know, in America about Columbus and all this stuff. We don't learn about the people that were here before him, you know. And the same thing with Dominican Republic. People were raised to believe that, you know, our Haitian brothers and sisters were a certain type of way, when in fact it's something completely different, you know. So Afro-Latinidad, education on this, and using your platform is an important way to like spread that information and that education. So thank you for what you do as well. I wanted to expand on your work, actually. In your work, you often touch on the interconnection of race, class, and reggaeton in particular. While it's now widely acclaimed, reggaeton was rejected by the mainstream media and Latin music establishment for decades. But of course, right now, it's popular, and it was always popular in our hoods, in the Bronx in particular. It was a huge part of our upbringing here. Can you tell us more about this and the role that the hood played in reggaeton and culture and class and all of that?
There is no reggaeton without the hood, so shout out to the Boogie Down Bronx. No, reggaeton, you said it beautifully. Reggaeton is widely acclaimed now, but before it was considered música desagradable, you know, bad music for women, and, you know, music that was for poor people's music, right? When really it's a genre that's extremely intelligent, does not come without pain and resistance. It is a medium of resistance. You can't say reggaeton without saying reggae, right? Reggae is where it all starts. Going back from Jamaica, it was a medium of resistance. Bob Marley was able to unite two opposing parties. The Jamaicans immigrated to Panama to work on the canal. They brought over the culture. They speak Patois in Panama. My grandfather speaks Patois. This is now. ¿Tú me entiendes? So, you know, Panamanians using this as a medium of resistance against our private police union, El Deni, right? As you'll learn in Loud if you listen to that podcast. It went from Panama to Puerto Rico. Puerto Ricans were fighting against Mano Dura contra el Crimen, or the Iron Fist against crime, which essentially put the precedent for the militarization of police. We're more interconnected than we realize, right? That affects our lives now, right? You know, and goes on and so forth into Dominican Republic, Colombia, and the world, right? This music is extremely intelligent, and I'm very happy that it's getting its flowers now. I'm really trying to hold back because, as Sonyi knows, there's so much more that I can say about reggaeton. I don't want to go over our time, but that's the gist of it. It's a music of resistance. It's sexy. It's powerful. It's beautiful.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you for that. And nobody better than Gata to say it just like she just said it. So thank you for that. You do have several projects. You just gave a shameless plug about one of those projects. It's called Loud, the History of Reggaeton. You are the historian and associate producer. Congratulations on that. Can you share more about your role on the podcast and just a little bit about the podcast itself?
I don't want to give too much away. Shout out to the team first and foremost, Futuro, Luis Gallo, Marlen Bishop, Sandy Reino, Jean Montalvo, Sofia. Wow, the list just goes on. Spotify, Julio Palon. Wow, the list just goes on. I just have to first give them their flowers real quick. Shout out to the team. The project is, wow, it's a dream come true. We really were able to give the genre its flowers, really able to illustrate, you know, the history, contextualize it in a way that incorporates, you know, a lot of analysis, a lot of storytelling, right? It is a story. And being able to tell the history of reggaeton in a way that gives dignity to the story of these people, right? Dignity. I'm very big on dignity. I say that often, give the flowers. You know, I hate this, this history of, you know, giving people their flowers after they're gone. Let's give them to them right now. These are living legends. We are living in a very amazing time. And so we're honored to have Evie Queen, who is the mother of the genre, narrate the project. Check it out on Spotify, and that's where I'm going to stop.
Yes, thank you, Gata. And of course, give them their flowers while they can smell them. That is the quote right there. So before we go, how can people stay in touch with you and your work, Gata?
First and foremost, again, I have to say thank you, BronxNet. You actually were one of the first platforms to give me visibility. So thank you so much for having me y haciéndome caso. Please check out Reggaeton con la Gata on all social media platforms. We laugh, we cry, we have serious conversations. It is a safe space to go there in regards to race. It's a safe space to learn about race and discuss colorism and to figure out what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, evolve and become better people. So definitely check out Reggaeton con la Gata, and it's bilingual, para que sepas.
Ueva, gracias, mi amor, y te doy tus flores hoy y todos los días. Thank you for everything that you're doing for the culture.
Gracias, corazón.
Claro, of course. We'll be right back here on Open BXRX Tuesday. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Welcome back. Through environmental stewardship and the beautification of local parks, the Bronx is Blooming engages communities and youth in our borough with environmental advocacy and community building programs. Joining us now to share more is Jennifer Beaugrand, Executive Director of the Bronx is Blooming. Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So getting right into it, for folks who are not familiar, can you tell us about the Bronx is Blooming, your mission, and your projects in our borough?
Sure. Our mission is to grow and support a culture of environmental stewardship in the Bronx. And we do that in three ways: through environmental stewardship projects, events out in the community, through youth leadership development programming, and through community building. As you can see, our mission is up there right now. Our environmental stewardship projects we do projects with local schools, after school programs, company service days. We do team building days. We partner with universities and local community groups and Friends of Parks groups as well. We do a lot of partnering with Friends of Parks groups and in helping to kind of enhance and expand the work that they're already doing as well.
Thank you for that, Jen. Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you want to add more to that?
Sure. And so in terms of our youth leadership program, it's called the Program for Leaders Advancing Their Community's Environment, or the PLACE program. And that program is a program that has traditionally, it started in 2013 and has been a summer program. We have provided more than 280 seasonal jobs to Bronx students where they get environmental training, college visits, and they get to care for one park or green space over 6 weeks during the summer. Each group of students is connected to a Bronx college mentor. And through that, we build college awareness, especially in students as young as 14 and 15, for whom this is their first job.
Wow, sounds amazing. Thank you so much for sharing these amazing programs with us, Jen. And especially, during the pandemic, being connected with our garden spaces, our park spaces has been so pivotal for our youth who have been locked in for so long during remote learning. Can you tell us a little bit about how, COVID-19 impacted that work, if you can?
Of course. And are you speaking about, so I think one of the ways that COVID-19 impacted our work is all our traditional partners, schools, like large after-school programs and other nonprofits, corporate teams, like the traditional groups that we work with, a lot of them were out of service for a while. And so we really worked with partners to build our one-on-one community service with individual community members who wanted to come out to our parks, which was really exciting because it's something that we've wanted to build for a number of years. And we are now running 3 events each week at local parks. And we have our calendar, which I know you're going to put up at some point for September. And then soon on our website, we'll have our calendar out for October and November. And so we hope people want to come and join us for service for a one-day event or for a weekly event that you come out to regularly. We do Saturday service in a variety of different parks. And then we also do service weekly at Crotona Park and at our concourse parks, which are Franz Siegel, Joyce Kilmer, Mullally, McCombs, and sometimes we're our office spaces at the Andrew Friedman Home.
So, Jen, as many of us may already know, the Bronx is considered the unhealthiest county in New York State. How does the Bronx is Blooming seek to utilize nature to combat health disparities like high asthma rates in our communities, if you can share?
Yeah, so I know that I know that there are a lot of campaigns like the Not 62 campaign, because we're 62 out of 62 counties in the state. So I think we combat it in many ways. And I think you're focusing on asthma. We steward anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 trees annually. We focus on young trees that are both street trees and or park trees. And one of our goals is to help grow the urban canopy for the next generation. And we do that working with all the different teams that we work with, the youth that we work with on a regular basis, our place students who become the leaders of groups in their parks. And I think, trees obviously help absorb stormwater. They help filter airborne pollutants. But I think one of the biggest things, there was a study, if you guys haven't seen it, in August in the New York Times, that a street the New York Times reporters used infrared cameras to do a test of this, and they found that an area of Central Park West was a full 31 degrees cooler than an area in East Harlem. This speaks to the impact of large trees and the transpiration of trees, where they let off water through their leaves, and through that water helps cool the area surrounding them, and so that helps to cool the streets, and really has an impact on the heat island and effect. And extreme hot temperatures have a real impact on people's complications related to asthma.
Right.
So I think, if you want to talk about something that we can all do, it's helping care for the street tree on our block that's been planted. And if you don't have one, it's going to 311 and requesting a street tree for your block. I think, that's one of the biggest things that any one of our community members, whether it be, us organizationally with community members or individual community members who say, I don't have enough street trees on my block. Let's make this happen.
It's environmental advocacy, and it's something that we can all learn to do together for sure. I know
and that, what I would say is that really connects to our PLACE program. So we talked a little bit about our PLACE program and when I was talking about the mission, but our PLACE program really is designed to give Bronx students the opportunity to be leaders in the environmental work in their communities. I think what we have said about our program is it flips the mentor structure that you usually see in communities that are considered low income, which the Bronx obviously has a host of considerations, and that is definitely one of them. And we ask our students to learn a set of skills and then care for their park, but also to lead groups of volunteers, both school, community, and company service teams out in their parks. And these students become the leaders. They are the ones who all the volunteers go to for the information on what to do and why to do it. And I think that's a really important piece of our program, and one that we really appreciate the amount of dedication and work that both our mentors and then our students put into our programming.
Right. I definitely wanted to speak more about the environmental stewardship work that the youth does through BIB. If you can tell us a little bit more about that, we'll share some images as well.
Sure, that would be fantastic. So we do a series of things. You are looking at Nancy right now, who worked with us this summer, and also some of our community volunteers who come out to work with us regularly, which is fantastic. But I think, we do a combination of things. As I said, we care for young trees in our parks. We care for urban street trees as well around our parks, which are very important specifically in helping to capture stormwater and keep it from running off into our sewers and polluting our waterways. We also build pollinator gardens. I don't know if you have some pictures of some of our flowers that we have planted, but we plant native species, which are species that have grown up to allow the insects in our area to get past their defenses. And that is really important in helping the pollinator population. Everybody loves butterflies, right? To see butterflies and bees on our plants, they gravitate towards the species that they have grown with over millennia, and that they have gotten through the defenses of. And so I think that's really important as a piece of what we do. As I said, we build gardens that support the local ecosystem. We help care for trees. We help work towards, we've done projects with erosion control as well to help slopes from slipping. We partner with local community groups to help build gardens as well, to make things, we can add beauty and ecological supports at the same time. And that's really what we choose to do.
I want to take this time to share some need-to-know green facts about the Bronx with our viewers, if you can, Jen. There are a couple of things that that Bronxites should know about our borough.
Yeah, of course. So here are a few. Two of the three largest parks in the city are in the Bronx. The Bronx is actually, I know you guys love this stat, the Bronx is the greenest borough, with 24% of our borough being parkland. That's a higher percentage than any other borough. It has the only freshwater river in New York City. It has 175 community gardens, 170 miles of bike paths. And one of our parks, Franchesca Park, has an outlook that was used by George Washington to monitor British troops during the Revolutionary War. And St. Mary's Park, another one of our Bronx parks, had the first Bronx playground.
Wow, good to know. I'm actually in the St. Mary's area. I live in Mott Haven, so that's interesting. Thank you for those facts.
I thought, just we wanted to hit on a couple things.
So, Jen, I wanted to take this time also to share that there are volunteer opportunities for the older crowd if they would like to join, as well as the youth. And the BIB is actually hiring, if you wanted to share a few of the positions that are available now.
Sure. So I think that is very true. Our programming is for people of all ages and abilities, right? So we have community volunteers who bring out their young children, who use trowels to try and work on their digging, right? And we have every level of volunteer who comes out and supports us. As long as we know ahead of time, we can plan. And one of our real goals is to create intergenerational programming, right? So when we run our programs, we like to work with community volunteers who are bringing out their young kids, who are themselves adults in the community. We work with high school groups, we work with college groups, and we work with groups of other groups in the community that bring out people of all ages. So yeah, that's a big piece of what we do. And then in terms of hiring, we are partnering with New York City Civic Corps, and we are looking for, there you go, a volunteer outreach and engagement coordinator through New York City Civic Corps. And the information is there for how to apply. I think we've also posted it on our social media. And if you have any questions about that position, you can definitely feel free to reach us at hello@bronxisblooming, and we'll get back to you with more information on the position. We're also looking for some part-time help, administrative support. These things aren't just posted just yet, but we are looking for some bookkeeping support, some admin support. So if people know people who are interested, we'll let them reach out to hello@bronxisblooming.
Thank you so much, Jennifer Beaugrand, for joining us today and sharing more about Bronx is Blooming. Please check out Bronx is Blooming on social media at Bronx is Blooming. Visit bronxisblooming.org for more information. And again, the email is hello@bronxisblooming.org. Thank you, Jen, for your time today.
Of course. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having everybody come and join us at a park event soon.
Thank you.
Make sure that you let people know when they can come out. Have a great afternoon.
Share it on our social media.
Yep.
Alrighty, so that's all for our show today. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time here on Open BXR.